Chapter 151. Lan Yaxin was seriously injured. The group of people in the conference room felt like they had survived a disaster. Not only were they not fired, but their salaries were already increased, and that made them ecstatic. You don't have to thank me, you should thank yourselves, especially Uncle. You should behave yourself in the future, or else there won't be such a good thing again, Mo Jinrong whispered in Mo Chang-wen's ear. He clenched his fists tightly and forced a smile. When he was accused by Fang Hai at the police station, he refused to admit it, and had to find a lawyer to bail him out. He felt Mo Jinrong must have known about it to do such a thing. Jinrong, you... Meeting dismissed. At Mo San's command, everyone heaved a sigh of relief and dispersed, leaving only 3 people in the conference room. Uncle, were you frightened today? Mo Jinrong smiled faintly and asked. No, it's not just that. Jinrong, you should relax a little in the future. The company is already very strict. If this continues, I'm afraid the employees won't be able to take the pressure. Mo Chang-wen smiled and said, In the past, I allowed Uncle to do as he pleased, which is why you're behaving so arrogantly, Mo Jinrong continued to say. Jinrong, what are you saying? When did I behave arrogantly? You know what you did. Don't think about dealing with Lan Anren. She isn't someone you can deal with. If you dare to lay a finger on her, don't blame me for being harsh on your son. Mo Jinrong threatened. Don't do anything to my son. Yang Yang has nothing to do with this, Mo Chang-wen said a little nervously. If Uncle is well behaved, I'll let him go. You can have a look for yourself. Mo Jinrong left the conference room with a smile. Back in the office, Mo Jinrong inadvertently noticed something wrong with his safe. Mo-san, did you touch the safe? Mo Jinrong frowned and asked. No, I would never. Why? Mo-san asked. Mo Jinrong walked over and realized he used to like the combination on the safe to end at a 0. But now there was a slight deviation. Someone must have touched it. He hurriedly opened the safe, and after confirming that the items were still inside, he heaved a sigh of relief and closed it. Has anyone entered the office recently? Mo Jinrong asked again. No, the room is always locked when you go out. No one else can enter except... Mo-san seemed to have remembered something. Speak. Mo Jinrong was anxious. Except for Miss Lan, Mo-san replied respectfully. Lan Anren? Mo Jinrong was a little confused. The last time he was unconscious, Lan Anren was alone. Did she touch the safe? But why was she interested in this? Mo Jinrong was perplexed. In the blink of an eye, it was time for school to end. After separating from Yang King, Yaxin walked home alone. She could vaguely feel someone following her, but when she turned her head, there was no one. Yaxin was frightened and was about to quicken her steps when a hand suddenly reached out to cover her nose and mouth, making her dizzy. When she woke up again, she was completely tied up and a piece of cloth was stuffed into her mouth. She instantly knew she was being kidnapped. There was a deep male voice outside as though he was on the phone. Boss, I've caught her. What should I do now? The man asked. I don't want money. I want the same suffering as my son. Give her a good beating. Keep her alive and don't kill her. It's enough. Lin Jikang's furious voice came through the phone. The man nodded, hung up the phone, and entered the house. Yaxin couldn't speak. Her face was pale with fright and her pupils constricted. She saw the man walking in carrying a pole, and Yaxin was frightened. She struggled and toppled down the chair, laying on the ground. The man spoke in a deep voice. You can only blame yourself for provoking him. Now that he wants revenge, I'm doing this for money. Don't worry, I'll send you to the hospital later. You won't die. With that, he slapped Yaxin, and Yaxin was beaten several times. Her skin was bruised and she couldn't scream from the pain. She could only cry continuously. The man hadn't hit her more than a few times when Yaxin fainted from pain. The man looked at Yaxin's injuries and found her boring. Since she had fainted, there was no point in continuing the beating, so he decided to send her to the hospital. Afraid that something would happen, he left her at the hospital entrance. Just then, Xu Yanshan was playing mahjong with old Mrs. Lan when she received a call from the hospital. She then rushed to the hospital. When they arrived at the hospital, they saw Yaxin wrapped in bandages, her face swollen like a pig's head, and there was a single part of her body that was good. They were instantly heartbroken. Zhao Shumi's heart ached even more. She watched her precious granddaughter grow up and couldn't accept that she'd become so hideous. She almost fainted. "Doctor, what happened to my daughter?" Xu Yanshan grabbed the doctor and asked. "Are you Lan Yaxin's mother?" The child's arm is fractured, and there are many soft tissue injuries. Luckily, she didn't hurt her brain, even though her chest is a little damaged. "I dealt with it urgently. You can pay the hospitalization fee. Other than that, the child just needs to be observed." Chapter 152. Her Master. Xu Yanshan went to pay the hospitalization fee while Zhao Shumi waited by the side. "Doctor, how did my child get beaten up like this?" she asked, feeling upset about it. "I don't know. She appeared at the hospital entrance herself. We pushed her in when we saw her," the doctor spoke. Lan Tingyi hurried back when he heard the news. When he saw his daughter wrapped up like a dumpling in the hospital bed, he couldn't hold back his tears. "Mom, what happened to Yaxin?" "I don't know. She's so pitiful." Zhao Shumi couldn't help but cry as well. "It must be that bitch Ayn Rand. She was just kidnapped and Yaxin was beaten. It's all her fault. Mom, why did you bring that jinx over? She's inauspicious." Lan Tingyi said, sobbing while he cursed. "Bastard, I get even with that brat." Zhao Shumi stood up. "Mom, Yaxin hasn't recovered yet. Let's wait and ask. Don't say that we bullied that brat." Xu Yanshan returned after paying. Zhao Shumi thought about it and agreed. They were always rebuffed, so they needed something on Lan Ayn Rand. After school, Ayn Rand took Sun Hai directly to the highest mountain in Rong City, the Temple Mountain. It was called the Temple Mountain because there was a medium-sized temple on the mountain. "Hey, why are you here to take me hiking?" Sun Hai spoke unceremoniously. "There are people you need on this mountain." Ayn Rand had good stamina and walked very quickly. Sun Hai didn't exercise often and couldn't walk halfway. Ayn Rand stopped and handed her a bottle of water. "Do you come here often?" Sun Hai asked with suspicion and took another sip of water. "I used to come here often because the people here were just like my family." Ayn Rand looked up at the sky. It was getting late, and if the sun disappeared, so did her master. Before the sun set, her master would have to carry a bamboo basket down the mountain to pick herbs. Some herbs could only be seen at night. "Let's go. We won't be able to see him if we're late." Ayn Rand took a short rest before continuing on her way. Sun Hai could only crawl behind with difficulty. Half an hour later, they finally reached the top of the mountain and saw a medium-sized temple. "Are we there? Where am I?" Sun Hai looked around, panting. There wasn't anyone around, but it was very clean. There wasn't a speck of dust on the ground, and not far away was a fish pond with many carps inside. "Master, Master!" Ayn Rand shouted into the room. "What are you shouting about, you brat? Bring me something delicious." A long-haired elder walked out. He seemed to be in his 50s or 60s and wore a long black robe, making him look like a priest. "Master, I'll bring it next time," Ayn Rand smiled coquettishly. Sun Hai had never seen Ayn Rand like this. She looked like a little girl. "Ross, ever since your dad took you away, my life has been boring. You heartless girl, it's been a long time since you visited me, and it's only now you're thinking about me?" Xu Shan smiled and poked Ayn Rand's head. "Aren't I here to give you talent? This is Sun Hai, a good seedling." "Sun Hai, this is my teacher, Xu Shan." Ayn Rand made the introductions. "Xu Shan?" Sun Hai thought for a moment. The best doctors in Rong City were all in the hospital. She never heard of Xu Shan. "Ayn Rand, don't lie to me. Why haven't I heard of Xu Shan?" Sun Hai was in disbelief. "You child, can't there be a higher mountain?" Xu Shan said with dissatisfaction. "Sun Hai, my master doesn't care about fame or fortune." "I haven't reached to my master's level yet, so you should learn from him." Ayn Rand smiled and said, You brat, if you want to learn from me, I'll have to see your abilities. Anne can go out to pick herbs in the middle of the night alone, and she can even find her way back in the dark. Can you do that? Shu Shan asked. Sun Hai looked down the mountain. There were woods and rocks everywhere. If she ran into a wild beast, she would be dead. Even if there weren't any stakes, she wouldn't survive a misstep. She hesitated. Although she wanted to surpass the accident, she needed to survive. Ha! Coward. Shu Shan spoke childishly. Master, stop teasing her. She really has good potential. Please teach her. Ayn Rand begged. Shu Shan glanced at Ayn Rand and smiled. All right, since you begged me, I'll teach you a good lesson, but the next time you come, you have to bring me the Shi Wan's roasted goose, the Lee family's peach crisp, and a jug of old wine from the Full Moon Hall. Got it. Ayn Rand smiled and said, come over from tomorrow onwards. Ask me or Ayn Rand if you don't know anything. Some of these herbs are poisonous. You can't touch them recklessly. Ask me first whenever you want to do something, Shu Shan said to Sun Hai. This girl looked very powerful, and he couldn't dampen her spirits. How could he be her master? Oh! Sun Hai looked indifferent, but she was overjoyed. She saw many herbs in the corner of the courtyard and presumed that this person must be an expert. Master, do you think you know anyone who can provide more than 1,000 pieces of land grass at once? Ayn Rand suddenly remembered and asked. Land grass? I haven't seen such a famous and precious item even after going to the foot of the mountain a few times. Who can have 1,000 pieces? There were so many pieces, they must be carefully planted to keep the temperature stable and control the humidity of the soil. They were cultivated on a large scale. Why? Do you need them? Shu Shan asked. Chapter 153, Buy That? No, I was just asking. I heard that someone could provide a lot of land grass and was a little curious. Ayn Rand frowned slightly. If someone can supply it, I'll buy it too. It's so precious. Shu Shan spoke with anticipation. No news yet. Let me look. Ayn Rand spoke. Lan Anne, can you find the land grass? Sun Hai was curious and asked. She is your senior sister. Don't call her by her name. You have no manners. Shu Shan didn't like Sun Hai's haughtiness, so he decided that she needed to be polished. Huh. Sun Hai walked to the side, bored. Ayn Rand chatted with Shu Shan for a long time, and while talking, then told him about the Lan family. I didn't expect that old thing Zhao Shumi to still not have changed after a long time. I've heard her name. She is old, and yet she bullies children. I will definitely visit her when I'm free. Shu Shan cursed angrily. It's all right, Master. I can do it. Ayn Rand explained. The sky turned dark, and Sun Hai said, I'm going home. It's getting dark. My mom is going to get worried. Ayn Rand looked at her watch. Master, I won't disturb you anymore. Be careful when it's dark. I'll visit you again. Ayn Rand held Shu Shan's hand as she spoke. You heartless person, go. Remember to bring me the 3 delicacies and that one next time. Shu Shan smiled evilly. That? What? Ayn Rand was confused. That one. Isn't there a disc seller at the foot of the mountain? Bring me 2 discs. Shu Shan smiled evilly. Who still watches those things nowadays? You can browse the internet yourself, Sun Hai shouted. Shoo, you brat, why do you care? Shu Shan was displeased that Sun Hai had exposed his intentions. Master, take care of your health when leaving. Ayn Rand smiled and shook her head before leaving the mountain with Sun Hai. How do you know Shu, Master? Sun Hai asked curiously. In the past, I was abandoned by the Lan family in the countryside and grew up without any family. Suddenly, a master came to collect herbs and saw that I was pitiful, so he asked me to learn herbs from him. He said that I was a promising talent, and I could infer from one point. He loved the nature of me, and without my master, I wouldn't be who I am now. Ayn Rand's tone was filled with sadness and gratitude. Oh, you can learn a lot from him. I haven't reached my master's level yet, so I can only teach you the basics for now. You can learn the more profound ones from master. Ayn Rand spoke casually. At this moment, Sun Hai had an indescribable feeling for Ayn Rand. She didn't know whether it was admiration or something else, but it was different from the past. When Ayn returned home, she heard of Lan Yaxon's horrible beating. Hubby, does this person have a grudge with the Lan family? We haven't made any enemies either. Last time it was Ayn Rand, and this time it's Yaxon. I'm really worried, Liu said worriedly. Ayn Rand, do you have a grudge against anyone in school? Lan Tingyang asked worriedly. No, Ayn Rand replied casually. She was a little surprised that Yaxon would provoke such a ruthless person. Ayn Rand wasn't in the living room after dinner. She went upstairs, turned on her computer, and sent a message to Fatty. Fatty, help me find out who injured Lan Yaxon. Alright, Fatty replied instantly. Boss, we have been monitoring Mojin Rong and haven't found anything valuable. In the past, he loved to go out, but now he barely leaves the house. Did he notice us? Skinny asked. He's not coming out? It's alright, I'll take a look. Is there any news of Shang Taiyan? Ayn Rand asked again. Yes, Shang Taiyan seems to be using langgrass to make a new batch of medicine, mainly targeting cancer and heart disease. It wasn't easy to gather these clues, Skinny replied instantly. Ayn Rand fell into deep thought. Langgrass is indeed very effective in stopping pain, but if it was used for cancer, it would be used for terminal and incurable cancer. Why would Shang Taiyan give out medicine for late-stage cancer? Was he trying to make a fortune? Okay, I understand. Pay attention when the medicine comes out. Buy a bowl and test it to see the ingredients. Ayn Rand spoke. Yes, boss. Ayn Rand wanted to find a chance to visit the Mo Corporation to take a look at their secrets, especially Mojin Rong's safe. There must be a secret inside. She was about to turn off her computer when Rongzi sent another text. Q, have you found any news about Zero? Ayn Rand smiled, her long, slender fingers tapping on the keyboard. No, this person's tracks are secretive, but why are you in such a hurry to find Zero? Is there anything you need? You can post it online and you will see it. Ayn Rand was curious why Rongzi didn't send a post asking for Zero. This way, she would go when she saw it, as long as the price was right. It's not something you should be asking. Do you still want money? I need to hear the news about Zero the next time, or will it end this cooperation? Rongzi felt like he was being perfunctory, and perhaps he didn't want to help him at all. Ayn Rand didn't want to stop the cooperation, so she replied, Don't worry, I will complete this mission. If all else fails, she could find someone to impersonate her and run away with the billion yuan. Ayn Rand walked in and eating an apple. Sis, I saw my goddess today. She is so beautiful. Ayn Rand was overjoyed. Congratulations. How long will your training take? Ayn Rand asked. Last time she wanted to take a look, but it didn't succeed. It's not long. It's more than a little week left. The manager said that my condition is good and I'll definitely become popular, Ayn Rand smiled and said. Chapter 154, The Temptation in the Office. That's good, my brother is the best, Ayn Rand smiled and said. Thank you, sis. Sis, who was behind Yaxon's incident? The Lan family doesn't offend anyone recently, so Grandma will probably come knocking soon. Ayn Rand had a bad feeling. I don't know, but don't worry about it. With me around, you just have to practice and be a star. In her past life, Ayn Rand had protected her well. This time, she would definitely protect him until the end of his life. Got it, sis. Ayn Rand smiled and nibbled on his apple. Ayn Rand touched his head and smiled with satisfaction. The next day after school, Lan Ayn Rand went straight to the Mojin Rong's office. Due to the previous incident, most of the people in the company knew who she was. She was Mojin Rong's wife, the lady boss of the Mo Corporation. They were all very respectful to her. At this moment, a blonde beauty in the office leaned down towards Mojin Rong eagerly. Mojin Rong's gaze flickered to the blonde, who trembled. I'm an artist from your entertainment company, Boss Mo. My contract is about to expire. Can you help me? The blonde beauty wore a low-cut shirt, her long hair falling over her shoulders. She looked extremely charming. You know my identity? Mojin Rong asked softly. You're already sitting here. Do you think I don't know? Outsiders often say that Mojin Rong is ugly, but I'm the only one who knows. Mojin Rong isn't like the rumors say he is. Usually, these rumors going around may not necessarily be real. Is that true? Is that true, Boss Mo? The blonde woman smiled. You're smart, Mo San spoke calmly. Boss Mo, what do you think of me? The blonde woman panted softly in Mojin Rong's ear. Mojin Rong didn't waver at all. Instead, he was a little disgusted by the scent of herbal perfume and frowned. Why did the front desk let someone like you in? Boss Mo, are you angry because I guessed correctly? The woman smiled frivolously. He isn't angry, but I am. A pleasant female voice came from behind the door. Suddenly the door was pushed open and an innocent girl walked in. The blonde woman was jealous when she saw that she was younger and better than her in every aspect. Boss Mo, is this your type? The woman smiled faintly and continued, I don't mind if we go together. Ha! Some people are ugly and don't even know it, Ayn Rand sneered. Who do you think you are? You're so young and yet you're here to seduce men. Boss Mo is mine. The woman lunged forward. Mojin Rong dodged backwards and the woman missed, almost falling. Really, Boss Mo? Ayn Rand smiled faintly and asked. Mojin Rong made a helpless expression. This lady, don't you hide from his wife when you're seducing someone. Are you looking down at the mistress of the Mo family? Ayn Rand smiled brightly and said, Young mistress of the Mo family? The blonde woman was a little surprised. She had heard that Mojin Rong wasn't married and jinxed his wife. How did he get a wife? That's right, she is the young mistress of the Mo family. Boss Mo's wife. Miss Jasmine, I'm afraid we won't be able to renew your contract. Please leave. Mo San stood up and said, Boss Mo. The blonde woman looked at Mojin Rong with anticipation. Get out if you know what's good for you. Mojin Rong's voice was frightened and cold. If Ayn Rand hadn't come, his illness would have acted up. Huh. I'll leave. The woman left angrily in her high heels. Mo San looked at the situation and sensibly frowned. After closing the door, only Ayn Rand and Mojin Rong were left in the room. Just like the last time, there's only us left in the room, Boss Mo. Ayn Rand sat down consciously, stretched out her long legs, and looked at Mojin Rong with watery, almond-shaped eyes. What are you doing here? Mojin Rong returned to his seat and asked faintly. Boss Mo, you should be grateful that I saved you, Ayn Rand joked. Thank you, but you don't know about this in the first place, right? Mojin Rong read the contract without raising his head. I heard that you don't like to go out recently. Since you don't want to see me, I came to see you because I missed you so much. Ayn Rand spoke up and drank the coffee in front of Mojin Rong. Mojin Rong paused, continuing to write. Boss Mo, what are you doing? Ayn Rand deliberately walked over to look at Mojin Rong. She glanced at the proposal on the table, but Mojin Rong took it away before she could take another look. This is a company secret. You can't read it. Mojin Rong's voice was ice cold. Boss Mo, have you forgotten? I'm also a member of the company. What, I can't look as a shareholder? Ayn Rand stared at Mojin Rong tightly, but he didn't look at her. You're just a shareholder of the company, and you don't have the right to read the confidential contracts. Don't forget, even though we are married, it's only on the surface. Don't treat yourself as the young mistress of the Mo family. Oh, all right. Ayn Rand spoke calmly, but she was thinking about Mojin Rong's proposal about heart disease medicine. What was he trying to do? Chapter 155, The Troubling Old Mrs. Lan. As she was deep in thought, Fatty sent her a text. Boss, there's news of Shang Taiyan. Speak. The new batch of medicine will be on the market in 3 days. Shang Taiyan will personally keep an eye on it. Got it. I'll take a look myself. Wait for my news. Ayn Rand replied quickly with a solemn expression. Mojin Rong didn't know what Ayn Rand was doing, but her expression didn't seem right. You can go back first. I have work to do, Mojin Rong replied coldly. Ayn Rand stood up, blew Mojin Rong a kiss, and turned to leave. This woman really... Although Mojin Rong said that, he was happy, and the corner of his mouth lifted slightly. Just then, Rongzi's email was suddenly sent over. In 3 days, Ki will definitely go to where Shang Taiyan is. I hope Shang Taiyan won't be absent by then. When Mojin Rong received the email, he frowned. He didn't want to find Q originally. He only wanted Zero. Someone wants to find Q herself. Please don't use Shang Tian, Mojinrong replied. There will be Zero when there is Q. We have to cooperate, Rongzi continued. Mojinrong hesitated. He needed Zero. Fine. Mojinrong's simple words made Rongzi smile. It was so interesting to find Q as an opponent. After leaving the Mo Corporation, Ayn Rand received a call from her family saying that old Mrs. Lan, Zhao Shumi, was yelling at the door, waiting to chase her out. Ayn Rand wasn't afraid at all. She slowly walked home. As expected, she saw Zhao Shumi outside the Lan family's house yelling loudly. There were many onlookers. Damn it, Lan Ayn Rand, you're a jinx. You ruined the entire Lan family, Zhao Shumi cursed. Mom, what are you doing? Ayn Rand is also a victim. Wasn't she kidnapped a few days ago? Lan Tingyong was still defending his daughter. She directed and acted out this incident. Ayn Rand was perfectly fine after being kidnapped. Jackson is such a good child, but she was beaten up so badly. Go to the hospital and have a look. This isn't over. Zhao Shumi felt so pitiful at the thought of her precious granddaughter that she wanted to cry. Mom, Ayn Rand is also your granddaughter. Why can't you treat her equally? Lan Tingyong felt aggrieved for his daughter. She was clearly a member of the Lan family. Why couldn't she be treated well? Who does she think she is? How is a member of the Lan family someone like her? She's just a jinx. I knew it. She has jinxed her family until no one was living well. You guys go take a look at Yaxin, who's been feeling better. You have to be responsible for this. If Yaxin has any disability in the later half of her life, you'll support her for the rest of her life. Zhao Shumi was furious, her eyes wide open. Why? We didn't kidnap her. Why should we take care of her for the rest of our lives? Is it because of her that we'll take care of you until you're old and you're dead? Will uncle and aunt have to be taken care of until the end of time? Ayn Rand walked down and spoke loudly. Look at this undefiled thing. Everyone, look at this thing. Your sister has been beaten to such a state, and yet you dare to say such things? You are indeed a filthy bastard that has no manners. The moment Zhao Shumi finished cursing, Li Yuru couldn't take it anymore. I gave birth to Ayn Rand and raised her. How could you scold her like that? Shut up, you're not a good person either. What kind of genes gave birth to such an undefiled thing? Zhao Shumi scolded Li Yuru. Ayn Rand could tolerate others scolding her, but not her parents. Seeing Ayn Rand was about to flare up, Lan Tingyong hurriedly stopped her. There were so many people here. If old Mrs. Lan was exposed, Ayn Rand wouldn't be able to survive. Mom, don't say anything else. There are so many people here. Let's talk inside. Lan Tingyong pulled Zhao Shumi. I'll say it here. I want to show everyone what she is. Zhao Shumi continued to vent her anger, no matter if she was scolded or not. Zhao Shumi spoke again when she saw Ayn Rand's fist and eyes wide with anger. Why do you look like you want to beat me to death? Come on, fight me, try me. Zhao Shumi inched closer, wanting more. She was certain Ayn Rand wouldn't do anything. Ayn Rand tried her best to suppress her emotions. If there weren't so many people around, she would have smashed this old thing to death with a brick. At this moment, Lan Tingyong walked over and cursed. You brat, did you hurt my daughter? I'm going to teach you a lesson today. My daughter suffered so much in the hospital because of you. Uncle, you're wrong. What has Yaxin's meeting got to do with me? Ayn Rand spoke calmly. You were kidnapped and came back safe and sound, but Yaxin was beaten up soon after. Previously, Yaxin said you were sleeping with Butler Mo every day, and were always in an ambiguous relationship with several men. Who knows which man didn't satisfy you and took revenge on Yaxin? It's all because of you. Then Tingyi wasn't satisfied with his insults and wanted to beat her up. Chapter 156, A Chaotic Battle. Lan Tingyong couldn't bear to see his daughter beaten, so he went up to stop Lan Tingyi. Tingyi, this has nothing to do with Ayn Rand. She is also a victim. You can't scold her like this, much less beat her. She is my daughter. Ayn Rand was extremely touched to hear this. In her past life, her father had also protected her like this. But she thought that he was being hypocritical and ignored him. This time, she knew that her family really loved her. Uncle, you can't do that. Sis is innocent, but you might have owed a gambling debt, and the retribution in this world is on your daughter. How can you be so certain that she did it? I think you owe gambling debts again after selling the house, Ayn Rand said anxiously at the side. You little rascal, what are you saying? Lan Tingyi was dissatisfied. Uncle, I really don't know about this. If you blame me because of Yax and I have nothing more to say, you can leave this matter to the police. There's no need to make a scene here. Hanran's nonchalant tone enraged Zhao Shumi. You brat. Now that you're back, you're so great just because you married Mojin wrong. You can't get away from this. You're a jinx. Come with me to the hospital and apologize to Yaxen and give 1 billion to her as compensation before leaving the Lan family. Zhao Shumi thought of everything well, and Anran suddenly laughed in anger. Ha! Grandma, are you daydreaming? The Lan family doesn't have 1 billion yuan, and even if I did, I wouldn't be able to apologize to Yaxen 1 billion, much less leave the Lan family. You brat, how dare you laugh? You don't respect me at all, Zhao Shumi cursed. I'm sorry, I never respected you before. Anran replied frankly without hesitation. This is outrageous. Watch how I'm going to treat you today. Today, either you die or I live. Zhao Shumi was about to pounce forward as she spoke, while Lan Tingyi helped her deal with Lan Tingyang. Li Yuro couldn't bear to see her daughter beaten. She went forward to stop Zhao Shumi, but was pushed onto the ground by her. Old thing, you dare to push my mom? Anran finally couldn't take it anymore. She went up and kicked Zhao Shumi's calf. Zhao Shumi cried out in pain and laid on the ground. Children are hitting elders. This is bad. Zhao Shumi sat on the ground, holding her leg and crying. You brat. You dare to hit an old woman? I'll teach you a lesson. Lan Tingyi watched Zhao Shumi get beaten and was definitely unwilling. Uncle, Grandma wants to hit me. I'm just defending myself, Anran smiled and said. Lan Tingyang, is this how you teach your daughter? Look at her. She doesn't have any manners. Shouldn't she be taught a lesson for beating an old woman? Tingyi knew how to use the public opinion to pressure Anran, forcing her to submit. She should be taught a lesson, damn it. She looks pretty at a young age. Why is she like this? Several people in the crowd shook their heads. Uncles and aunts, please be reasonable about this. A few days ago, I was kidnapped for no reason. I was also a victim, and my cousin was beaten for no reason. I don't know what happened either, but the bad guy who kidnapped me was arrested, so he couldn't have beaten my cousin. I didn't do anything wrong, right? Grandma came up to me, wanting to beat me and gain 1 billion yuan. She also wants to chase me out of the Lan family. Is there such a thing in the world? My mom was beaten by this old lady. Can't I protect my mom? Anran smiled and said. Indeed, there isn't. They haven't investigated clearly, and they want to beat someone? They want money, and they want to chase them out of the house? That doesn't make any sense. Brother, your mom is your mom, but so is her mom. Besides, you're an elder. We haven't investigated this matter yet, so let's wait until the police to investigate. Someone in the crowd spoke. Bullshit. The police can't find anything. Firstly, there wasn't any surveillance camera, and secondly, there hasn't even a person seen. My daughter is laying in the hospital, and you want me to forget about it? Did you pay my medical bills that day? Lan Tingyi spoke to the crowd. I understand. Are they here to extort money? The man in the crowd spoke. The crowd had an epiphany and nodded, looking at Zhao Shumi and Lan Tingyi with contempt. I don't care. You have to be responsible for my daughter, Lan Tingyi stammered. Lan Tingyang calmed down and thought for a moment and spoke. Tingyi, this isn't a solution. Mom, since you still want money, and you don't want me or my family as your son and grandchild, let's split the family properties. I'll give you the money once we split the properties. Bastard, I'm the head of the family, and you want to split the family before I even say so? You must be confused. Zhao Shumi suddenly stood up. Her legs no longer hurt, and she spoke with great vigor. Old Mrs. Lan is better? So it's an act. Seems like I was wrong. The crowd stirred again. Zhao Shumi knelt down again and pretended to be in pain. I raised him in vain. When your father was still alive, he never thought of splitting the properties. Mom, don't you want money? I'll give you whatever you need after we split the family. Lan Tingyang was helpless. Chapter 157, Feigning Weakness. Zhao Shumi was so angry she didn't know what to say. Things wouldn't be so easy after they separated. Lan Tingyang, don't you want your mom anymore? Lan Tingyi was a little panicked. Mom doesn't like me. She only likes you. She doesn't like Anran or Yanran either. Since that's the case, what else do I have to say? I've transferred the retirement money for this money. I've transferred the retirement fee this month. After we split from the family, I won't transfer any more money. I'll leave Mom to you. Lan Tingyun spoke seriously, and Lan Tingy was a little scared. He couldn't even feed himself and his wife and children waiting to eat. So how could he have the spare money to feed old Mrs. Lan? Good, good. You want to split the property, right? Then you'll have to give us a portion of your hospital. Zhao Shimi was panting with anger and said, Mom, that won't do. We told you before that Tingyun and I worked really hard on this hospital. We ran around trying to find resourceful doctors, but you and Tingy didn't interfere. This hospital is ours. We can't give it to you. The Euro walked out. This family is worse than pigs and dogs. We have a share in the hospital after separating from the Man family. There is no way he can monopolize it now. Your brother doesn't have a job and he doesn't have to rely on the hospital. What are we going to do to eat? Are you trying to starve your mother to death? Zhao Shimi cursed again. Dear Grandma, you have to be reasonable. You've enjoyed this hospital a lot over the years. You should know that Uncle's methods. Perhaps in the end he will sell the hospital and use the money to gamble. You owe 5 million this time, but next time it could be 50 million or 5 billion. When the time comes, you won't be able to repay that debt. In the end, you won't have to rely on my parents. Ayn Rand spoke leisurely. Stop it. Tingy has changed. Zhao Shimi looked at her and said, Really? Then how did your big villa become someone else's house? They will live in that house for 10 years. Grandma, can you still see the big villa after 10 years? Ayn Rand smiled and said, How dare you curse me to death? Although Zhao Shimi hated Lan Tingy, he was still her son. And she had to protect him regardless of how disappointing he was. I didn't. After the separation, Dad meant that he could give you the money as your retirement fee for the rest of your life. You can forget about the rest. Ayn Rand explained. Lan Tingy's eyes turned and he said, Mom, clear it at once. Perhaps we can get a bigger house. Zhao Shimi was furious. This unfiled son could only see the interest in front of him. How disappointing. What are we going to do in the future? We'll run out of money eventually. If he doesn't care about us, what are we going to do? Are we going to have to beg for food? Zhao Shimi thought further. Previously, Lan Tingy was only concerned about gambling, eating, and playing with his money, and never thought of buying a house. He got a house he had in difficulty and had to pay the mortgage, 10,000 each month. Without Lan Tingyun, life would be difficult. Lan Tingy thought about it and agreed. Lan Tingyun was the family's bank. He couldn't do it without him. And Lan Tingyun, we aren't unreasonable people. Yaxin is our daughter. Who wouldn't be heartbroken if they saw their daughter beaten up? We don't have a choice. We just want you to apologize to Yaxin. She isn't in a good mood right now, so she will feel better if you apologize. As for separation, Tingyun, I know that you must be angry. Mom still loves you. How could a mother not love her child? She was just angry, right, Mom? Lan Tingy nudged Zhao Shimi again. Zhao Shimi spoke reluctantly. Yeah, I was angry and spoke too harshly. It's just that I can't bear to see Yaxin like this. Tingyun, you have to understand, Mom. Yan Shan is in the hospital right now. Her eyes are swollen from crying and she's taking care of Yaxin. It wouldn't be good for anyone to wrap such a beautiful child into a mummy. Lan Tingyun's mood softened and he thought about it in another perspective. It was true, but old Mrs. Lan couldn't stand his daughter, and it was expected that she would be reminded of her. Ayn Rand knew very well that these two vampires were obviously showing weakness because they were afraid of losing their father, the money tree. Mom, I know you're anxious, but I won't let Ayn Rand go over to apologize to Yaxin. This has nothing to do with her, and she didn't do anything wrong, so she can't go over and apologize. Lan Tingyun knew very well, and he couldn't let his daughter suffer. Zhao Shimi was about to speak when Lan Tingy stopped her. They couldn't risk them anymore. I know Ayn Rand didn't do anything wrong, but the family is really poor now. I can't spend Mom's retirement money, but the hospital is rushing me. Yaxin's injuries are very serious. She needs hospitalization fees and medical bills. There isn't enough money at home. We were too agitated just now, and we're anxious. Worried about Yaxin. Tingyun, you're a good brother. Just help me. Nothing can happen to Yaxin. Lan Tingy begged. Aren't you spending Grandma's money a little too much? Yan Rand pouted. Yan Rand, shut up. Lan Ting-young chided. Sure, I'll give it to you on Yaxin's account. Lan Ting-young took out a card. There's 20,000 yuan on this card. Think of it as nutritional supplement I bought for my child. It is definitely not money as for an apology or compensation. Our Anran didn't do anything wrong. Lan Ting-young explained the situation first, and Lan Ting nodded. Zhao Shimi despised the lack of money in the card. Usually she would at least have 50,000 yuan. She didn't care to have it if it was lower than that. Ting-young, are you trying to chase away a beggar with this money? Take it or leave it. Anna was about to take it back when Lan Ting-yi hurriedly put it in his pocket. We'll take it. Yaxin. Chapter 158, Conspiracy. Useless thing. Zhao Shimi cursed. Now that the money is given, can we leave? Lan Anran spoke unceremoniously. Mom, it's getting late. Let's go back and visit Yaxin. Lan Ting-yi spoke. Everyone disperse. This is a family quarrel. Now that we made up, there's nothing more to see. Lan Ting-yi smiled and pulled Zhao Shimi out of the crowd. Ting-young sighed and went back. In the hospital, Zhao Shimi was furious the entire journey and was still yelling when she returned to the hospital. Ingrate, I raised them for nothing. Mom, what's wrong? Why are you so angry? Xu Yanshan asked. It's all because of Ting-young. He wants to split the family. Damn it. Lan Ting-yi also expressed his dissatisfaction at the hospital. What, Ting-young really said that? That's horrible. Mom raised him to such an old age and even gave him a wife. I didn't expect him to be such an ingrate. Xu Yanshan felt that it was unfair for Zhao Shimi. He gave us 20,000 yuan and said that it was to buy nutritional supplements for Yaxin. But it wasn't an apology or a compensation. How disgusting. Lan Ting-yi continued. Are they trying to chase away a beggar with this little money? Xu Yanshan took the bank card, put it in her pocket, and cursed in dissatisfaction. How is Yaxin today? Zhao Shimi asked. She's a little better. The doctor says she's recovering well, but she can't speak yet. She must have been frightened badly, Xu Yanshan replied. Poor child. Is there news from the police? Zhao Shimi asked again. No, the police are still investigating. There isn't any news yet. Xu Yanshan was helpless. Damn it, if Ting-young hadn't suggested splitting the family, I would have beaten that brat. Lan Ting was unwilling. We'll talk about it when Yaxin's health is better. This child's life is too tough. Xu Yanshan covered her face and cried. Ting-yi, what happened to the matter I asked you to handle last time? Why isn't there any news about it? Zhao Shimi asked. Lan Ting-yi remembered that he had been asked to teach Anran a lesson, but didn't make a move. Mom, Anran is very cunning. Think about it. She was all right even when she was kidnapped, so I need to find a more capable person. The more capable the person, the more money that we'll need. How am I supposed to do about it? I'll pay the money. That brat needs to suffer as much as Yaxin, Zhao Shimi said furiously. Well, since you say so, I'll find an expert. I didn't believe that none of my gambler friends were capable. Lan Ting-yi spoke harshly. Hey, don't kill her. I just want her to suffer, Zhao Shimi reminded him. Got it, Mom. Lan Ting-yi replied, went out and took out his phone. He was at the top of the stairs. Hello, Old Fifth Wong. I'm Lan Ting-yi. After a 10-minute conversation, Lan Ting-yi hung up with satisfaction and lit a cigarette. Lan Anran, let's see where you can run to this time. In school, news of Yanran being accepted as a star after his transfer had spread like wildfire, raising a trend to chase after celebrities. Yanran's posters were posted on the school forums and school journals, and a small group of fans had gone to the arts department to look at him every day. Some fans would send gifts to Anran to curry favor with her, hoping that she would give them a chance to meet Yanran. Anran, your brother is so popular. He might even become an international star in the future. Zhao Xiaolei guessed. Probably. Anran didn't say anything else. Anran, what happened to Yaxin? Yang King Buki suddenly appeared in class 1 and questioned loudly. How would I know what happened to her? Anran replied casually. It's your fault. I called her and her mother said that it was you. Why did you do this to Yaxin? Yang King asked. What does it have to do with me? Yan King, don't cause trouble for no reason. I still don't know that Yanran is famous. Oh. Yan King, don't cause trouble for no reason. You still don't know that Yan Ran is famous. He has a group of male fans. They find out that someone bullied their idol sister. Do you think they won't tear you apart? Some fans are crazy. Sun Hai suddenly stood up. Yan King was a little surprised that Sun Hai would defend Yan Ran. Where did you come from? Yuki was dissatisfied. Why do you care? In short, if you want to bully Yan Ran, you're gonna have to get through me first. Sun Hai stood up and looked at the two arrogantly. Now Xiaolei was dumbfounded. She confirmed that she hadn't seen wrongly and Sun Hai was actually helping Yan Ran. What's so great about her? Sun Hai, don't forget that Yan Ran beat you many times and made you clean the toilet. You lost the competition. Yuki tried to sow discord. Ha, that was before. Hurry up and get out of Class 1. You're not welcome here. Class 1 and Class 2 never got along. This is not a place you can step foot in. Sun Hai continued. Yan King was a little confused, not knowing why Sun Hai suddenly became like this. A few days ago, they weren't interested in each other, but now she was defending her. She know what kind of bewitchment Yan Ran had given her. Chapter 159. Sneaking into the Mo Corporation at night. Hey, are you stupid? This is Yan Ran, the country bumpkin. Yan King reminded her again. Aren't you leaving? If you don't want to leave now, I'm going to chase you out with violence. Sun Hai picked up an empty stool, pretending to throw it at her. The students of Class 1 and Class 2 knew how powerful Sun Hai was. She didn't care about anything else. If she didn't leave now, she might really attack her. Yan Ran, just you wait. When Yax recovers, you'll suffer. After Yan King said these harsh words, she pulled Guki out and left. Xiaolei was dumbfounded. Yan Ran, how did you subdue her? It wasn't easy for her to defend you. Yan Ran, don't be pleased. I didn't help you. Take it as repayment for recommending me to an expert. How is it? Is my master good? Yan Ran smiled and said. Sun Hai didn't reply. She did think that the old man was worthy and good of being called an otherworldly expert. It's just that she couldn't truly praise her master in front of Yan Ran, or else it would be too embarrassing. The old man is so-so. She turned back to her seat and continued with her homework. There is no denial or affirmation in her this sentence. Yan Ran knew that she was complimenting her master and she smiled. After school at night, Yan Ran changed to her night clothes and snuck into the Mo Corporation. There was almost no one in the Mo Corporation at night. Only Mo Jinrong and Mo San were in the office. Young master, it's already so late. Are you going home? No, old Mrs. Mo is watching me from day to night, wanting me to give birth to her grandchildren. Mo Jinrong leaned back in his chair tiredly. Old Mrs. Mo is being kind. She was afraid that you wouldn't be able to give birth if you were a little older. Mo San dared to speak, but his tone was weak when he looked at Mo Jinrong. Shu Pei will definitely complain to old Mrs. Mo about my mistakes. In addition to the shareholders meeting, I think it's better to forget it. I'll just have to hide every day. Mo Jinrong was helpless. At this moment, the electricity in the office suddenly went out and it was pitch black. What happened? Mo Jinrong asked. It might have tripped. I'll go take a look, Mo San said. Mo Jinrong didn't believe in trips. At this moment, Yan Ran entered Mo Jinrong's office, relying on a faint light. She gently pushed the door open and made a slight noise. Mo Jinrong knew it wasn't Mo San and hid in the corner. Yan Ran saw that there was no one in the office and started to search. She still remembered the proposal about heart disease. Who are you? What are you looking for? Mo Jinrong's sudden words startled Yan Ran. She had investigated and there wasn't anyone in the office, so why was Mo Jinrong here? She hurriedly turned off the weak electronic searchlight in her hand. She didn't dare to speak and wanted to leave the office silently, but Mo Jinrong didn't give her the chance. Where do you think you're going? Mo Jinrong stepped forward to stop Yan Ran. She struggled, but was suddenly grabbed by Mo Jinrong's wrist. Yan Ran remained silent. She picked up the electronic searchlight in her hand and shone the weak light directly into Mo Jinrong's eyes. Ah! Mo Jinrong couldn't open his eyes from the light. He used his arm to shield himself from the weak light, so he couldn't see whether the person in front of was female or male. He grabbed a pen from the table in a hurry and drew it towards Yan Ran. The sharp tip of the pen slid across Ayn Rand's delicate skin, causing fresh blood to flow. She didn't cry out from the pain and suddenly stepped onto Mojin Rong's foot, but was caught by Mojin Rong while escaping. They weren't careful and they lost their balance, falling to the ground. Mojin Rong's lips touched Ayn Rand's. They couldn't see each other's appearance in the darkness, but at that moment they were both stunned. In a daze, Ayn Rand couldn't be bothered to enjoy the warmth anymore. She pushed Mojin Rong aside and ran out the door. Mosan was late and the power grid was restored. Young master, the power grid was hacked. This must have been Q's doing. Mojin Rong was still nostalgic from the kiss and hadn't heard anything from Mosan. Young master, what are you doing? Mosan asked curiously. It was strange to see Mojin Rong lying on the ground. It's alright. What did you just say? Mojin Rong stood up. I said the power grid has hacked. It seemed to have been done by Q, Mosan replied calmly. She came to me instead of me finding her. Mojin Rong touched his lips. They were still warm. This woman kissed him. Why is the ground covered in blood? Mosan was startled. Mojin Rong looked at the pen in his hand and the blood on the ground. He remembered that he had used the tip of his pen to poke Q and presumed that she was injured. Follow the blood trail. She couldn't have gone far. Chase after her. Mojin Rong put down the pen in his hand and immediately rushed out. Ayn Rand ran out of the company and looked down at her arm. The fountain pen was too fast and it left a 6-centimeter long gash on her skin, which seemed quite deep. Chapter 160. The most dangerous place is the safest. She immediately took out her phone and called Fatty. Mojin Rong's hurried footsteps were heard outside the company. She can't have gotten far. I stabbed her. Look for blood. Mojin Rong looked at the drops of blood on the ground and followed them. Ayn Rand had left the place she was at and ran even further. She knew that her first priority was to stop the bleeding and not let the blood follow her. Fatty came quickly and pulled up beside her. Boss, hurry. Ayn Rand got into the car quickly and the two of them left. Mosan arrived at the place they were at, the pool of blood there indicating that Q had stopped there for a while. He followed the blood trail for a while more and found no more blood. Young master, the blood disappeared suddenly. Mosan pointed to the bloodstains. She can't have disappeared into thin air. Someone must have come to rescue her. Mojin Rong could vaguely see the tire tracks in the light. Hurry and check the surveillance cameras. The company's surveillance cameras could have been hacked, but I don't think she had time to deal with the surveillance cameras along the road. Mosan immediately retrieved the surveillance cameras outside the Mo Corporation and found something. Young master, look. The person is wearing a mask and night clothes. Her hand is covered by her other arm, which means she must have been injured, and seriously injured. She was searching the office and ran into me. I don't know what she was looking for, but the figure seems familiar. Mojin Rong immediately thought of Ayn Rand. Young master, are you referring to Miss Land? Mosan speculated. They look alike. Isn't there blood in the office? Unless she had been ill her entire life, we can take it for a DNA test. I don't believe we can find her. Yes, young master. Mosan sent the blood stains to the laboratory for testing tomorrow and entered it into the population database. They would definitely be able to find her unless she wasn't born in wrong city or never fell ill. In the car. Boss, what happened? Fatty asked. There was a small incident. Bandage it up when I get back. I'm afraid Mom and Dad will be worried. Ayn Rand had a pained expression and there were faint traces of ink on her wound. It seemed like it would take a while to heal. You said Shang Taiyan will personally supervise the new batch of herbs? Ayn Rand asked. Yes. This batch of medicine looks very important, but it has to be divided into two parts, two different medicines. One is related to cancer and the other is related to heart disease. These two medicines will be sold in the black market, but their prices are very low. Moreover, some fixed buyers will go over to buy medicine. They all seem to be poor people, Fatty said. Where did you get this information? Ayn Rand asked curiously. Previously, when I was investigating news about Shang Taiyan, an anonymous netizen suddenly came to inform me that Shang Taiyan has been researching new medicine for the poor. He told me that in 3 days, Shang Taiyan would personally monitors sales of the new medicine. Shang Taiyan's actions are strange too. The prices sold to the poor are usually in the tens or even tens of yuan per box. The cost to produce from these herbs would reach thousands of yuan. If it was sold in the market, it would make a huge profit, but there wouldn't be the money and insisted on selling it to the poor. Besides, what's the point of losing money? It would be strange if a businessman didn't earn a large sum of money. In any case, Fatty couldn't understand what Shang Taiyan was just thinking. As the saying goes, there is no such thing as a merchant who isn't wicked. But Shang Taiyan seemed to be different from the rest. Ayn Rand didn't speak. She went straight to the hut. "Boss, you're here." The people in the hut greeted Ayn Rand. Zhao Ming carefully bandaged Ayn Rand's wounds. "Who is this?" "He's too ruthless. The blood vessels were about to be lacerated." Zhao Ming was a little distressed. "There was a small accident this time, and I think we should move on to the next topic. Previously, I asked the Mo family for a house, and it's time to use it. It is not convenient for a group of you to live in such a small and crowded place. Moon Jinrong has agreed that he wouldn't disturb me, so don't worry and stay there. It's a villa, so pack up your things and move over in the next few days. You can't stay here anymore. I'm afraid someone will investigate." Ayn Rand considered. The crowd was excited. They never expected to be able to stay in a villa in their lives. It's all thanks to their boss. "Boss, has someone noticed us, or have you exposed yourself?" Skinny asked. "No, I just don't think this place is safe anymore. We might be investigated one day. The most dangerous place is the safest place." Ayn Rand's wound was bandaged. She stood up and spoke. "I'll go first. It's a little late, and I'm afraid Mo Jinrong will come looking for me. Boss, take care. We'll move into the villa in a few days." They were excited. Before Ayn Rand left, she gave them the keys to the villa and reminded them to be careful, even if it was safe. After all, they couldn't read the minds of their enemies, so they couldn't open the door for strangers. This is an unwritten rule in their stronghold.